Hello students, I am back with my second video. Now let me make some things clear before you that it is very difficult to keep myself in an empty room and talk in front of a mobile phone because I am not used to it, and I think none of the teachers is used to remain in an empty room and talking in front of a mobile. What we are used to is to talking to the students in the classroom. As we miss your clamor, I think all of you are also missing the classroom ambience, talking to your friends, getting occasional reprimands from your teachers, etc. But things have come to such a point that we have to get going with whatever limited resource we have at our disposal. As promised in my previous video, I am going to start literature. I am going to start teaching you Composed Upon Westminster Bridge by William Wordsworth today. As I mentioned in my previous video that in class 11 we are going to study English literature for the first time. So let me make some points very clear before you start studying literature. Literature is called the mirror of the society. Whatever happens in the society is bound to be reflected in literature, because all the poets, novelists, writers, whoever they are, they belong to certain society. So they cannot remain aloof from whatever is happening in the society they belong to. So whatever happens in the contemporary society is bound to be reflected in the contemporary literature. So when you are going to study literature, it is compulsory to know the social background of the poet. The contemporary social history is also important to be aware of while studying literature. It is not only true about English literature, it is true about any kind of literature which you are going to study. These are the basic things you should always remember at heart. Now let's come to the point. Composed Upon Westminster Bridge. I repeat, Westminster, not minister. Westminster Bridge. Westminster Bridge is a famous bridge in London, and once the poet William Wordsworth visited that bridge at the crack of the dawn, at the very early morning, when the city of London did not wake up, when the city of London did not get the usual clamor of the big cities, and the poet found the ambience of London quite amazing. He was simply moved by the tranquility, the serenity of the city London, which he was not familiar with. He was familiar with the city of London, which is marked by the clamor, which is marked by the din and bustle of day-to-day life. But such serenity of London is something which he was quite unfamiliar to. And that is what comes to be reflected in the most glowing poetic terms in the poem Composed Upon Westminster Bridge. Now look at the lifespan of William Wordsworth. He was born in 1770 and died in 1850. In 1789, an epoch-making event took place in the world. What is that? That is French Revolution. French Revolution has lot of repercussions in the history of the world, which you will come to know in your history class. But in a nutshell, I can tell you what was the most remarkable outcome of the French Revolution was the establishment of democracy and abolition of monarchy. Now we are all living in a democratic world. We are living in a democratic country. Today India is a democratic country. We choose our rulers. We can, every adult can elect and have the right to be elected in a democracy. So we do not bother about democracy. today. We do not give so much thought about democracy, but there was a time was democracy was a distant dream. People did not have the right to elect or to be elected to power. What they had the slavery from generation after generation to a certain dynasty. So when French Revolution showed the way to democracy, it was simply amazing. Wordsworth was a young man. So Wordsworth at the same time when French Revolution took place, when French Revolution succeeded with the fall of Bastille, which happened to be the symbol of tyranny of the Louis dynasty, which ruled French Empire at that time, was simply elated. He fled to France to witness that revolution. So French Revolution had a direct bearing on William Wordsworth. Wordsworth was deeply impressed by French Revolution. Wordsworth is also called the poet of Romantic Revival. What does revival mean? Revival means rebirth. So when we say Romantic Revival, that means Romanticism was reborn. That means Romanticism was there, but it died. Yes, Romanticism was there. When Romanticism was there? Romanticism was there during the time of William Shakespeare. Now, what is Romanticism? We talk so much about Romanticism. Now, let me make it very clear. There are plenty of definitions of Romanticism, but for your convenience, I can say Romanticism is strangeness added to beauty. A thing which, if it needs to be romantic, it needs to be beautiful. There is no doubt about that. But at the same time, it must be strange. There is a word in English language called exotic. What does exotic mean? Exotic means attractive for being strange. That strangeness is the essence of Romanticism. Every beautiful object cannot be called romantic unless it is shrouded in mystery. Every romantic thing must be mysterious. In Bengali literature, Rabindranath Tagore is the greatest of all romantics. William Wordsworth was a father of Romantic Revival. As I mentioned earlier, Shakespeare was a pioneer of Romanticism, but after Shakespeare, Romanticism died, or Romanticism went into hibernation for a long period of time due to the advent of some low-grade poets after him. But as I told you, French Revolution just opened the gates of freedom by establishing democracy. Wordsworth was deeply impressed by John Locke, the British philosopher. Wordsworth was also deeply impressed by the French philosopher Rousseau. Rousseau once said, "Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chain." So Wordsworth was deeply impressed by the French philosopher Rousseau and British philosopher John Locke, who said our mind was tabula rasa. Tabula rasa means blank slate. Everyday experience inscribes upon our mind, which is, in the words of John Locke, tabula rasa. Now, Romanticism can also be explained as the primacy of imagination and supremacy of emotion. Primacy of imagination, supremacy of emotion, always note it down. A romantic poetry, romantic prose, romantic literature must be characterized by the primacy of imagination. The romantic poet must be imaginative and romantic poet must be emotional. The perfect blending between emotion and imagination creates romantic literature. Wordsworth has an unnatural, unique sense of unique capacity, unique talent of inculcating romantic spirit into the most trivial objects of our day-to-day life. William Wordsworth did not have to go to a faraway place or to a beautiful place to create such a romantic poem. He found London quite romantic at a certain point of time of the day. What was the time? The crack of the dawn. Now let me look at the poem. If you have the book, just look at the poem. How many lines are there in the poem? If you count, you will find this is the poem of 14 lines. 14, 1, 4. This poem contains 14 lines, I repeat. This poem is called sonnet. A poem of 14 lines maintaining a definite rhyme scheme is called sonnet. Now let me tell you, the word sonnet comes from the Italian word sonetto. Sonetto in Italian word means a poem of 14 lines which used to be accompanied with music while being recited. A sonetto was recited in accompaniment of music. But in English sonnet, that music is not required. Always remember, when the intensity of theme is great, the background music is not required. Now this sonnet form can be divided into two parts. First part, that means if it is written in Italian model, the first 8 line unit is called octave and the rest of the 6 line unit is called sestet. Now octave or octet, it can be called both. Octave or octet, both mean the same. 8 line unit is a musical term, so is sestet. But there is another variation of 14 line poem called sonnet. It is called English sonnet. Now the English sonnet is divided into 3 quatrains. Now you know the quatrain. Quatrain means the unit of 4 lines. 3 quatrains means 12 lines and the concluding couplet. Couple means 2, so couplet means 2 lines. So this is called English sonnet. Now William Shakespeare is the father of English sonnet containing 3 couplets and containing 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. Now William Shakespeare did not invent the English sonnet. English sonnet was invented by William Surrey, but William Shakespeare is called the father of English sonnet because he has perfected the art. Now William Wordsworth has written composed upon Westminster Bridge in a Petrarchan model, that is, it is divided in octave and sestet part. So now let me read out the poem before you. Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. The city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning, silent and bare. Ships, towers, domes, theatres and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Starting from the first line and ending with the line smokeless air, it contains 8 lines. So up to that part of the sonnet, it is called octave or octet. Now let us move over to the sestet portion. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor, valley, rock or hill. Never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still. Now the rest of the portion, if you count the lines, you will find there are 6 lines. So this part is called sestet. Now just let me read out the poem again just to make you understand the rhyme scheme. Follow the rhyming pattern which I am going to point out to you. Earth has not anything more fair. Emphasize the word fair. if you have the pencil with you, just write A beside the word fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by. If you have pencil, write B beside the word by. A sight so touching in its majesty. Now pass by and majesty rhyme with each other, so write B beside majesty. The city doth like a garment wear. Now the word wear rhymes with the word fair in the first line, so you write down A beside the word wear. The beauty of the morning, silent and bare. Now the word bare rhymes with where, therefore you need to write A beside the word bare. Ships, towers, domes, theaters and temple lie. Now just look at the word lie. It simply rhymes with the word by in the second line, so therefore you need to write B beside the word lie. Open unto the fields and to the sky. You should write B beside the word sky. All bright and glittering in the smokeless air. You should again write A beside the word air, as it rhymes with fair in the first line. So what comes? A, B, B, A, B, B, A. So the rhyme scheme is A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A of the octave part only. Now let's move to the sestet part. So having finished with ABBA, ABBA, let's move over to CD scheme. Never did sun more beautifully steep. Write C beside the word steep. In his first splendor, valley, rock or hill. Write D beside the word hill. Never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. As the word deep rhymes with steep, write C beside the word deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Write D. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep. As the word asleep rhymes with deep and steep, write C beside the word asleep. And all that mighty heart is lying still. As the word still rhymes with will and hill, write D beside the word still. So what comes to the point? C, D, C, D, C, D. So 6. So this is the rhyme scheme of the entire sonnet. ABBA, ABBA and CD, CD, CD. Every sonnet has certain rhyme scheme which it needs to conform to. This is the structural compulsion of a sonnet. Now having finished the structural aspect of the sonnet, let me explain the sonnet in detail. Earth has not anything to show more fair. The poet was simply overwhelmed by the serene beauty of London viewed from Westminster Bridge. He says, Earth cannot show anything more beautiful than what it offers to me right now. Dull. Dull means most insensitive. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. A person, if he can pass by without being moved by such a majestic means royal sight, he would be most insensitive person. The city, look at the word city. The C of the city is capitalized. That means the poet personifies London. What is called personification? When human qualities are attributed to inanimate beings, it is called personification. London city is compared with a person. Therefore, as the human beings wear garments, London city is found to be wearing garments. The city now doth like a garment wear. Wear means put on. What kind of garment the city puts on? In the opinion of William Wordsworth, the garment is the beauty of the morning, and the garment is silent and bare. This is purely Wordsworthian. Wordsworth is always moved by the bare beauty of nature. He does not like any kind of ornamentations or embellishments. What moved the poet is the bare beauty of London, that is quite visible, that is quite clear in the early hours of the morning. Ships, towers, domes, theatres and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky. Everything, ships, towers, domes, theatres and temples lie open unto the sky. All bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Air is completely smokeless because the factories have not started emitting smoke at that time, because it is quite early in the morning. London, industrial revolution already took place in England, and England is characterized by the huge industries, and the factories, the chimneys of the factories start emitting smoke throughout the day. Therefore, London sky remains blackish throughout the day. But at this point of time, London sky remains as clear as possible, and that is what moved the poet. Because the poet is overwhelmed by the clear sky, which is quite rare at the latter part of the day. It is not easily visible at the later part of the day, because the companies, because of the factories, the chimneys of the factories rather will start emitting smoke. So London city can be said at the early hour of morning is basking in the glory of the morning sun, and the golden hue of the morning sun is brightening up everything, dome, theatre, ships, towers, etc. And that is what moves the poet very much. Now let's come to the sestet portion. Never did sun more beautifully steep. Steep means just touch every part of the city. In his first splendor, valley, rock or hill. In the first glow of the rising sun, everything seems to be bathing. Everything, valley, rock or hill, seems to be bathing in the first light of the morning sun, which is purely golden. Never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. That this part is very important, a calm so deep. What moved Wordsworth very much was the serenity, the tranquility of the place, which is very rare and which can only be found in the early hours of morning, because the entire city seems to be asleep. So therefore the poet reiterates, never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The poet was deeply overwhelmed, bowled over by the unnatural calmness, serenity, tranquility of the place of London, which the poet was not familiar with during the other part of the day. The river glideth at his own sweet will. The river, which river the poet is talking about? The river Thames. The flow of the river is not disturbed because the ferry service across the river has not started yet. So therefore river can flow at his own will. Will means wish. Dear God, now the poet addresses to the God right now. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep. You know, the houses cannot sleep. Who can sleep? The inhabitants of the houses are found to be sleeping, and all that mighty heart is lying still. The poet has employed here the content for the container figure of speech, just to suggest that the people who are the movers and shakers of the city are now sleeping. That is what makes the city so placid, so serene, so calm, so tranquil. And that almighty heart, what is called mighty heart? London is the center of British Empire, and when Wordsworth wrote the poet, it used to be said that the sun never sets in the British Empire, because British Empire was the most powerful empire all over the world, because the British Empire was spread in the both hemispheres of the world. Therefore, and all the center of power was in London. So heart of the London is very mighty. Mighty means very powerful, and the mighty heart is lying. Therefore, all the serenity still prevails, and the prevailing serenity was moved the poet burst into such marvelous poetry in the most glowing poetic terms. This is all about Westminster Bridge as a poem. Now let me tell you something about the language of the poem. If you look at the title of the poem, you see it is written, composed upon Westminster Bridge, September 3, 1802. Now in 1798, 1800 and 1802, Wordsworth, in collaboration with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, published a book called Preface to the Lyrical Ballads. Wordsworth wrote a poem, Lyrical Ballads, and he, along with his poet friend Samuel Taylor Coleridge, published a book, Preface to the Lyrical Ballads, where he made it very clear that why people are getting away from reading poems. Because we have natural idea that poetry is not for the common people. Common people can read prose, common people can read stories, novels, etc., but not poetry. Why? Because the language of the poetry sometimes repels the common reader. So that is what pained Wordsworth very much. Wordsworth thought, if the poets cannot bring the reader, common people, to read their poetry, the poetry will not survive. You cannot survive depending upon some elite class. So Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge jointly published the Preface to the Lyrical Ballads, where Wordsworth made it very clear that language of the poetry should be akin to that of prose. And this statement, this very emphatic statement, brought lot of flack from all the contemporary critics, because they could not imagine how the language of poetry should be akin to that of prose. Akin means similar to that of prose. But Wordsworth stuck to his point and showed through his own creations that poetry can be written in as easy language as the language can be used to write prose. And if you look at the poem which is under consideration, composed upon Westminster Bridge, you will not find a single word which is unnecessarily used in the poem. Every word is simple, every word is very easy to understand, and every word used in the poem is quite evocative. But that is the character of Wordsworth. Wordsworth can, I told you earlier that Wordsworth can inculcate the romantic feelings in the most trivial objects of nature. At the same time, Wordsworth could describe the most trivial object of nature in the simplistic language possible, and that is the hallmark of Wordsworthian poetry, which comes to be reflected in the poem composed upon Westminster Bridge. So I think you have all understood whatever I have said. Now poetry part, this poem I have completed teaching. If you have any query, any doubt regarding anything, feel free to ask me on the WhatsApp group created for you. Next, if you don't understand any of the word or the meaning of any of the word or any of the word I have spoken in this video, just view the video repeatedly and search for the word on Google. Now you have smartphone. So if you have smartphones, if you have smartphones, try to use it for your advantage. Previously you had to consult dictionaries, and some of the students came complaining that they didn't have dictionary, and I used to advise them to procure a dictionary, old or new, just to come to find the meaning of the words. But today you have the smartphones where you can Google any words you like. You will get the meaning in any language you like, even in your vernacular. So don't say that if you, sir, you are speaking English, we cannot understand, we do not have English medium background, we came from Bengali medium. So these pretexts will not hold any ground. If you don't understand any of the thing I have said, feel free to ask me on the WhatsApp group. If you view the video repeatedly, watch the video repeatedly, if you don't understand any of the word which I speak in the video, try to find a word in the internet, Google the meaning of the word. I think your problem will be solved. Yes, for first few classes you will find the going a bit tougher, but as the time progresses, things will come easier. So that's all for today. I will upload some notes on the WhatsApp group regarding this poem, and I have come to know that some of your friends have no smartphones. So if you come across such friends who are not able to have internet access, try to help them so that they can get the video as early as possible, so that they can be at par with you while learning English in class 11. So that's all for today, and next class we will proceed later. I will upload all the questions, probable questions, answers on the WhatsApp group, and what I will upload is the model questions and model answers, but I cannot guarantee you that these questions and answers will be set in the exam. So on the basis of the question answers which I will be uploading on the WhatsApp, try to write some other questions and answers set from the same poem, and if you wish, you can mail your answer to my mail ID, which I will share with you very soon, so that you can get them corrected at your own convenience. Thank you. Have a nice time.